On the basis of monohybrid cross, a cross is now meaning that a law is an equation with a law state that each individual possesses two factors. The term has zero particular character. At the time, formation is the membership that is of separated from each other so that the gametes can only prove gametes is always pure plant, purity of gametes. It is also explained that heredity factors are discrete or the law behind, and together law of segregation applies to diploid organisms that form haploid gametes to reproduce sexually. Explanation: Mendel's law of let thus Mendel's laws of cell growth plant, and the explanation is plant example. The letter is to be used to represent the gene defined plant height, and convention of a place represent the plant was crossed each other for B, and offspring is the first pair F1 generation. When a member of F1 generation were choose to combine that produce F2 generation. A second version that is cross between two breeding for cross plant and generation yield phenotypically tall plants. Now understand the reason why all the plants is tall and F1 generations used to wear obtained by crossing pure tall. The short plant is the determined P as a frequent variation of the obtained by crossing pure A of the determined is of various things. Offspring is expected without your Punnett square used to work at outcome in a simple genetic cross. The purpose of Punnett square. The genetic constituent points of the top and top of the square of the other sex of one side. The genetic constitution is constitute of possible greater than the entire square of the grid. Now next one is here is Punnett square. Now this T, capital T, small t, and small t, capital T, small t, and the T is small t, capital T and small t. Now, at the time of the formation of gametes, member of the pair, the genes separated from each other of the member of chromosomes, such as a half generation. This is a pair of the homozygous loci. Segregation each from the games is carrier from one generation never growth are the figure. When a plant with these genetic constitutional cross is mates, an offspring get the P from the parents and the P genes of other things. All the hybrid plants of one generation are genetically having with the genotypic T, capital T, small t. Now we will discuss so all the hybrid plants of one generation are genetically T, capital T, small t, but the plants where the tall is smaller and the pure grade, the tall it's a gamete. Cross constitution constitute as capital T, small t. Thus we see that the throw of physical appearance are same are all tall, but the genetic constituents is half has different capital T, and the capital T, small t. Now, where the plants of F1 generation were allowed to self-pollination, both tall, short plants appear in the second generation F2 from figure 1 to 2. It's evident the pure or F1 generation hybrid were tall, but is an F2 generation both tall and the index of that the Fine. Tallness dominate and conceal that the character shortness is stressed that results of generation so that the characters is shortness could the appear all at all. Thus, character tallness, which is expressed as a heterozygous condition that after generation is considered as the dominant character. The gene T is considered dominant gene. That is one hand. Other hand, character is generation is constructed. F2 generation is considered as the dominant character, so the gene capital T is considered as a dominant gene. On the other hand, the character's shortness, which is visible itself in the first generation, could not receive that the T receives as thus receives the recessive is gene. Small t cannot express itself when the FN symbol does. However, the characters receive recessive gene. Thus, a recessive gene is that cannot itself when the symbol does. However, characters of shortness reappearance in F2 generation, where gene is double thus to dominant thus capital T was absent. Genotype ratio is 1 is to 1 is to 1 is to 2 is to 1 or phenotype ratio is 3 is to 1. It is also classical Mendelian ratio. Provide the best read of Mendel's law of segregation. Mendel's 3 is to 1 phenotypic ratio is cross hybrid, that is but the phenotype content is 2 factor that trait dominant is 1 recessive factor separate 1 gamete is formed. Gamete is cross of dominant carried and the one other copy to each factors. Now, this random fuse all possible gametes occur on fertilization. Test cross. No one's Test cross between an individual with a dominant that phenotypic individual are recessive and phenotype is the individual who dominant phenotype is homozygous or heterozygous. For example, consider the case of a test cross performed on tea plant and tall plant unknown genotype. That tall tea plant is homozygous. Now let us explain an example scenario 8. Tall pea plants is homozygous. P it is parents, tall plant and dwarf plant. When we cross multiply with both of these, only T or small t. When we get F1 generation is capital T and small t is a tall generation. Now conclusion is this: the tall plant must one kind gametes are chosen by the homozygous, that is capital T, capital T. Scenario: the tall pea plant is heterozygous. Parents: tall plant, dwarf plant. Capital T, small t. Only t that means small t. The F1 generation is F1 capital T small t. And the ratio is 1 is to 1. That is, our conclusion is tall plant must be producing kinds of gamete that is heterozygous dominant capital T small t. That's it. Now, law of independent assortment. No one is there. Law of independent assortment. Here we go. Start. I Law of independent assortment. The law of independent assortment was detected to use. Oh yeah. This is okay now. आते हैं law of independent assortment. Law of independent assortment was deduced from Mendel's experiment, that is नहीं लाइफ साइंस की है देखो लाइफ साइंस ये सर हेड्स की नहीं है पता है मैं स्टडी चैलेंज लेना चाह रही हूँ आप वन मंथ देखते हैं कौन कौन इसमें पार्टिसिपेट करेगा एंड अभी थंबनेल बना दूँगी इसका और ये चलेगा कब तक ऑलमोस्ट वन मंथ और कंसिस्टेंसी मतलब पढ़ाई पे भी wait now we will start. Here I am. Okay. The law of independence assortment was reduced a Mendel's experiment with dihybrid cross that involved analysis of two independent traits in dihybrid cross. This law states that assortment of gene involved any analysis of independence. तो इसमें बेसिकली इंडिपेंडेंस असॉर्टमेंट में मेंडल्स का ये थर्ड और मोस्ट इम्पॉर्टेंट लॉ है. वेलकम. Explanation. Suppose cross a mandel between pea plant with ground yellow seed and no one is wrinkled and green ones. All F1 hybrid give around the seed that is a yellow color is dominant and the green color is round shape. Dominant over the wrinkle and F1 hybrid is plant cross to the each other or allowed to sell. Okay, ask your doubt.